Dr. John OSUKU OPIOH, a doctor in pharmacy and integrative medicine, who considers a blend of medicine of the past and present as a new solution to current health problems. With more than 20 years' experience in health practice, a range of medical conditions can be managed perfectly in a holistic manner. Specializing in chronic fatigue, infertility, diabetes, heart conditions, blood pressure, migraine, cancer, autism, sleep disorders, sickle cell, erectile dysfunction, memory loss, eye disorders, fibromyalgia, hair loss and baldness, immune system modulation, enhancing energy, stress disorders, weight loss, arthritis, nutrient deficiencies, and many other health problems. According to Dr. John OSUKU OPIOH, natural health practice is the way forward.
Hello and welcome to our show. I am Whitney. Our topic of today's show is integrative medicine an alternative way to fight chronic diseases? Our show is going to be split up in two, so our first subject will be chronic diseases and our second one will be integrative medicine, and we'll also be talking to Dr. John OSUKU OPIOH.
Hello and welcome to all. I'm TONIA and I will be going through questions and emails which have been sent to us to be answered by Dr. John.
This talk show is presented to you by Health, Nutrition and Fitness Community Interest Company. It is a social enterprise that is based in East London, especially in the London Borough of Newham. Our aim is to provide Black people and Black Africans who are living in the UK with relevant information about nutrition, health and fitness and just general well-being. We will also aim to encourage Congolese people to get more involved in fitness. This includes Zumba classes and just general active and fitness classes. To reach more Congolese people and Africans nationally, Health, Nutrition and Fitness Community Interest Company has chosen TV as a broadcast, as we will be broadcasting once a week. If anyone is willing to pay for their commercial to come through TV, please contact us and this will be able to be organised. So last show we had emails, questions asking about Dr. John OSUKU OPIOH's profession and more about integrative medicine. So with this show we have invited him back and hopefully most of the questions that we had emailed to us will be answered. Welcome back, Dr. John. I hope you've been okay. So I think we'll start off by asking about chronic diseases. Well, I will first ask, what are chronic diseases? Can you describe it to us?
Yes, chronic diseases is a long-term condition which lasts from a minimum of 3 months to an extent where it will lead to death. It is a condition which is worldwide spread due to different number of reasons. It is very difficult to speak about chronic conditions or chronic diseases or chronic illnesses without mentioning its counterpart, which is called autoimmune diseases. The world of medicine is facing difficulties to put a boundary in demarcating the differences between chronic diseases and autoimmune conditions. It is very easy to make a mistake to identify a disease as being chronic, while in the actual sense it is an autoimmune condition. I would probably, in a very simple term, would like to make a bit of clearance in the two conditions as they're always side by side. An autoimmune condition is condition in which the body's defense system is mistaken, in the sense that it starts fighting the healthy parts of the body. While chronic condition is a condition of a disease which are triggered by a number of factors, but the common thing between these two conditions as a group is a common word which is called inflammation. So we cannot speak about any disease in life right now without thinking about inflammation, of which accompanying inflammation there is stress. So these two words always work side by side to be trigger factors governing about 90% of all disease states, which is debilitating to mankind or humankind.
I am aware that there are different types of chronic diseases. Can you just quickly talk us through some of the different types? Can you give us some examples?
Yes, the numbers or the lines of chronic diseases are infinite, meaning that we can never put a mark on what type of a disease can be called chronic. So long as it has started and lasted for more than 3 months, definitely it has got to be termed a chronic condition. So among the few or the many we know, we speak about cardiovascular conditions or diseases, which could be things like high blood pressure, could be things like heart conditions, could be things like cholesterol problems. We could talk about what is current, which is so much disturbing, a condition of diabetes, which we all hear about. We could further go and speak about musculoskeletal conditions, regrouping a number of conditions within the conditions. We could speak about arthritis, we could speak about rheumatism, we could speak about a number of things. We could extend the chapter by talking about asthma. We could go further by talking about what we hear common called autism. We could further extend the chapter by talking about mental health. So you find that it is a group in a group. But one thing which is quite clear is that once it is chronic, it can never be a single state. Others become cofactors, others become risk factors, so they coexist. So it's all termed that it is a situation of comorbidities.
Thank you very much. Now, as I explained in the beginning of the show, we have received emails of people asking questions that we can put forward to Dr. John and that he can answer. So I'm going to pass over to Tonia, who's got these emails, and hopefully Dr. John can answer all of everyone's questions.
Hello, Doctor. So the first email is from John Bendo from London, and he asked, is obesity considered as a chronic disease or a risk factor?
Thank you for the question. I would clearly say that obesity could play a dual role, meaning that it could be a chronic disease, at the same time it could be a risk factor. Now, we could call it a chronic disease in a situation where obesity is a standalone condition that could bring a number of issues behind that. In considering like a risk factor, we all very well know that obesity can be a risk factor underlining the condition of cardiac issues, like heart attack could come in due to the fact that somebody is overweight. We could think about problems in aspects of fibroids developing in the female due to the fact that the body is overweight. We could think a situation where infertility crops in as a result of somebody being overweight. So in those lines, you'll find that obesity is playing a role as a risk factor, but not as a chronic condition. So it all depends in the situation of the health and at what time obesity strikes you as a condition.
We have here Danny Kiaketa from London, who asked, what is the impact of chronic diseases on individuals and on the society in general?
I would say it has got tremendous impact to both the individual and the society, and in some cases, or in all cases, to the state, to the government. The first impact, of course, it is that it will lead to an economic burden where an individual experiences that heavily and the supporting family. The second impact is going to be in the aspects of the productivity of the individual. The person will not be able to be productive in the sense that the mindset would be changing and feeling isolated, and then lead to another condition. We could think about a situation where the consequences could be tremendous in the line of mental aspects. A patient or the individual start thinking that would I be isolated in other aspects where he could find himself developing other conditions.
Okay. Roger Laponda from Brussels has asked in which way an individual's lifestyle, such as unhealthy diet, physical inactivity, and smoking can contribute to the development of chronic diseases.
Unhealthy lifestyle, physical activities, smoking, we could all see as a blend factor which could be very provocative and very detrimental in increasing what I've said earlier, the process of inflammation in the body leading to a chronic condition. So if you look at it right now, these are well cited and with the underlying factors which is controlling or which is managing or which is driving the incidence of chronic cases.
Madame Londa Louise from Kinshasa asked, is it true that too much sleep, as 10 hours or more, as well as too little sleep, which is 6 hours or less, can lead to chronic diseases such as diabetes, coronary heart disease, obesity, and anxiety in those aged 45 and over?
That question could be well answered by thinking of what the father of toxicology has always told us. Dr. Paracelsus has paraphrased in the beginning of medicine that to every good thing there's a bad thing. Something works because it is dangerous. So coming to the issue of how sleep, imbalance I would call it, meaning sleeping less or sleeping more, could be a detrimental factor and the causative factor of chronic diseases. It's well understood how the sleep pattern could be linked to the central part of the brain called hypothalamus. It is a part of the brain that controls the main functions of the body system. If one sleeps at the same time, it's connected to the brain function where it's managed by the master gland we call hypothalamus. What does hypothalamus do? It is a part of the brain that controls hormone system in the body. We know hormone are chemical messages. Hormones controls the body function. Hormone runs the day-to-day life of a living organism. At the same time, hypothalamus is a part of the brain or a part of the body which is linked to the nervous function. When I speak about nervous function, it means it coordinates the body function by passing messages to other parts of the body to do what it's supposed to do. The third thing, the function which is controlled or managed by hypothalamus is temperature regulation of the body. So it's more like a thermostat to the body. So if we could think about hormone system, we could think about nervous function, and we could think about temperature regulation. This is the whole center of life. But leave alone hypothalamus being in relationship to other systems of the body, indirectly or directly. So it is very important to assume or to understand from the physiology of human body that anything which tends to interfere or destabilize the function of a control center, a master gland like hypothalamus, Definitely, and due to the fact that it's linked to the hormone function, which we very well know that hormone function, there are about 7 systems in the body. So in whatever way something disturbs that center, it is going to be a chain reaction. It's going to be integral pathways. So it will be in a situation where the consequences can easily develop in a chronic condition. But the chronic condition will be the one we know. Of course, if it is triggers up something unusual, medicine will always say it is unknown, and that's where trouble starts.
Okay, yeah. Right, fifth question. So Willie Gabwa from Soanis asked, adopting healthy lifestyle practices such as a healthy diet, regular physical activity, quitting or avoiding tobacco use, can prevent or control the onset of debilitating and expensive complications of chronic diseases.
Yes, I totally agree with the person, because if you follow up what is happening globally, we are going into the new world of what we call life science or life medicine, lifestyle medicine. So what does lifestyle medicine mean? Simply is what you have cited or what the person has asked. It will simply mean leading a healthy lifestyle by carrying out physical activities, by eating proper diet, by avoiding risk factors like tobacco smoking, which could always be trigger factors in a series of diseases grouped as chronic diseases.
Yeah. So Padu Ndwalu from London asked, can chronic diseases be cured?
I would say to cure chronic disease is not the right word to use, but I would simply modify by saying that chronic diseases can be manageable. Chronic diseases can be treated. Chronic diseases can be reversed. But curing could be an end process, which could be at the art of commitment of the person who is a victim of chronic disease. Could be a continuation as a result of a healing process started by trying to adopt or put into play a behavior which will support the lifestyle medicine I've talked about, which covers physical activity, healthy lifestyle, and then of course avoiding risk factors like tobacco smoking.
Thank you, Doctor. I will now hand you over to Whitney to ask some more questions about chronic diseases.
Okay, Doctor, it is well known that there's a link between chronic illness and depression. What is the cause and effect relationship between chronic illnesses and depression? Can you explain that to us?
Taking the two phenomena at the same time to highlight on, I would rather not say there's a relationship between chronic diseases and depression, because we all know that when we speak of the word relationship, it is for a good cause, it is for happiness, it is for success, for enjoyment, and it's for flourishing. But taking chronic disease and mental illness, here there's nothing of that nature. I would say there's an association or a link between chronic disease and mental illness, which is depression in this particular case, as the question stands. Why does this one come in? You see, once you are in a medical condition or suffering from a medical condition, the patient or the person who is a victim will always be thinking about that condition. Breeding stress, worrying oneself. All these, of course, definitely will affect the physical understanding, the psychological aspect, will have an impact on the mental aspects, and then the person will start being emotional. The person, of course, being in a situation of chronic disease is always isolated. The word solitude is a good sign of depression, because once you are in a state of solitude, meaning you are alone, you will always be depressed. So that is the link which I would say can be put between the understanding of chronic disease and depression. Of course, an association is not the causative factor. We should not forget that. But in this particular case, one is bound to assume when there's a compounding factor, definitely you can link something.
Okay, still sticking on the subject of depression briefly, can depressive symptoms be related to physical illness or side effects taken from medication?
To make that one clear, it will bring in like two separate questions in one question. Let's first take the aspects of the question put in the context of saying, is it related to physical illness? Yes, I've just talked before, said that once a person is in a state of chronic condition, he's always thinking physically is debilitated in the sense that there's mental disturbances in one aspect or the other. We go further by thinking a situation where physical illness can lead to mental aspects due to what the causative factors would have been. We know a number of situations where something like war, something like explosions, something like famine, something like torture, something like isolation, all this boils down to physical illness, which actually triggers depression. It could well be understood that when you remember one lady who is called in Calcutta, Mother Teresa, clearly put it in a brief statement by saying, the current situation worldwide is not the question of diseases like leprosy or tuberculosis, but the fact is that once somebody feels that he is being neglected, he is being isolated, no one cares about the person, definitely that person is going to have the impact of physical illness and it will be a disease. That is one thing which we should understand from Mother Teresa, who made it very clear that the main problem worldwide is not what we think. We should not think about leprosy, we should not think about tuberculosis, but we should think about conditions will lead to physical illnesses, like what I mentioned earlier. Not being cared for, isolated, neglected, and the like. Going to the second aspect of the question, which tries to understand, is mental illness a consequence of medication? Yes. Actually, if you look at the 21st health crisis, you see there's something coming up called drug disease. What does drug disease mean? It would mean simply the disease caused by the medicine you are taking. Going back to what is known, we are well aware. I'll take a very simple example. The use of contraceptive pills in ladies. Contraceptive pills can be used in two aspects. One, to control period pain, that is one. Second thing is always to make the person not have unexpected pregnancy. But following up people who are taking contraceptives, there are times you find that the mood changes comes in, and there are a number of cases where somebody will always feel worse and get depressed because simply is taking the contraceptive pills. And these are very common cases which are always seen but is neglected. Going further, as a result of saying, does medication cause depression? Yes. We could take an example of a situation where you're already depressed because you are suffering from a medical condition. Now, you are taking medicine to cure the medical condition, but it's not doing that. It's causing another problem. So the issue is amplified. Other diseases can come in because you're taking medicine. We have very clear understanding of some new medication in treating diabetes. You find that cancer can develop because you're taking a medicine to treat diabetes. So you'll be multiplying what we are talking about. As I've said earlier, that chronic disease does not exist alone. See, one disease can be a cofactor, one disease can be a friend to the other disease. So it will become, in a situation, as I've explained in one simple term, there exists of comorbidities in chronic diseases, where it becomes a multiple problems. And in the long run, it becomes very difficult. And that's why, finally, you could see that the impact can be economic burden, the impact can be death, the impact can be premature death, and all what you want to say. So I would think that it is a very serious condition which is not one person, but the whole world at large. And definitely, the message goes to the community that we need to pass this message, we need to be aware, we need to start, we need to engage ourselves in a lifestyle mode where we think about changing our behaviors towards something which supports healthy lifestyle, physical activities, eating, balanced diet, trying to relax. All these plays a big role in trying to secure our health and optimize our health condition.
Thank you, Doctor. I find that really interesting because most people think that medication will make you better, but little do they know that sometimes it can actually add more to your problem, or it just doesn't help really, such as you explaining.
Yeah, you see, these are like, there's no one fit situation for everybody. As far as health is concerned, health can never exist as a single entity. This was the concept brought about in the 17th century by great scientists like Descartes, the French scientists, where they took a disease to be a single entity. They started doing treatment, current treatment, because we look at one thing, but you find that in the long run, you start one thing, you get other things. So in most cases, depends at what time the person calls for help, depends at what time the person signals that, look, I'm not feeling well, or this is my situation. So always the best cure is prevention.
How can depression in chronically ill patients be managed?
As mentioned earlier, what I talked through, we need to come with a comprehensive plan to manage depression, as I highlighted earlier, that it's not a standalone scenario. It is a combination of factors which triggers up the condition. Now, depending on what state the disease strikes and the intensity or the magnitude of the condition, a number of plans can be put in place, what you can call care plan, which would look into the person as a whole, not look into the disease. We need to look into the person. So once we look into the person, what are we looking into? We need to think about the mind of the person, the body of the person, the spiritual aspects of the person, and the environment to which the person is exposed. So considering this as a package, I think a wonderful treatment plan can be designed, and this would be demanding to look into a new type of medicine.
Can depression treatment produce an improvement in the patient's overall medication condition, or a better quality of life, or a greater likelihood of sticking to a long-term treatment plan?
Nothing is guaranteed, but of course we can't shy away from what is in place.
Right.
I would say, depending on how the approach is made, depending on how the person is coping, always something can always be gained on the use of something. That's why the important thing is always to have a choice to see how can it be handled. And then, of course, we don't have to forget that once a condition is chronic, it is already long term. There would sometimes be need to monitor, even if like the treatment you are given is aggressive. There can be relapse of the same condition if you stop the treatment. So it is a one-to-one situation. It has got to be monitored and adapted in relevance to what is being observed.
Are there any tips you can give to someone who maybe has been affected with a chronic illness and they can't cope with depression? Or are there any tips you can give to someone where they can avoid depression?
There are always many things to be done in nature. I always encourage people never to think negative. Of course, the first thing always, even if you cannot do anything to any condition, is to encourage the victim to be positive. Here, when I say positive, positive is not the word or the mathematical sign written plus. It is a way of therapy where we have got what is called positive psychology. Positive psychology is a way of empowering a person with a condition that, look, let it be there, but there's a way forward. You don't have to get discouraged. You don't have to lose hope. You must think positive, first of all. Take it that in your life, up to the extent where you started suffering from the medical condition, there has been things you have achieved. So in other words, you must let the person know that there's always a room for improvement. Yeah. So in this aspect, there are very simple things that can be done. If you talk about depression or mental illness, let's take depression. It is not by coincidence that one class of medicine used to treat depressed patients is called SSRE, selective serotonin reverse inhibitors. What does it mean? This is a medical approach, which means that somebody is depressed because he has got low level of neurotransmitters in the brain. So this type of medicine is given to make that type of chemical substance accumulate in the brain to increase up the mood. That is the approach which is conventional. Positive psychology has got the same issue. If I say SSRE in positive psychology, the S which stands for serotonin, or selective in medical aspects, will stand for strength in positive psychology. So the patient must understand where is my strength and what is my weakness. So if your weakness can be safeguarded not to undermine your strength, you have got your selectivity. Going to the second S called serotonin, which is a chemical transmitter, is a matter of seeing what is your, what I could call it, selection. In that aspect, you should select what could be good for yourself. Meaning here, you could go into lifestyle medicine we are talking about. Select the food you like, which is healthy. Eating something good can bring up the mood. Going to what I'm calling reverse, you have to look at, in other aspects, where could be your strength, where could be what, not strength, where could you have your, insights. So your insights could be a slogan that I will recover. So people around you will have to support you. You could think of saying, I'll come out of it. So you need to build up your inner strength to make things up and down the way. So these are like, could be achieved in different ways. Simply, I could put it in 3 words. I would use the word D, which means you need to detoxify yourself by using a number of measures. So you could like prepare something which makes you feel better. You go for detox. Physical exercise could be a detox system, or makes you more relaxed, reactivating all the body function, improving the circulation, reactivating the function which releases energy, reactivating genes which are sleeping. So many things comes in. You could think about repletion, meaning that bring up something to the level because you are deficient on that. So if that thing is brought up, it would mean that your condition can improve. So the last one would be creating a balance. You asked me earlier about too much sleep or less sleep can be dangerous or can cause chronic diseases. Yes. Here I answered by saying an imbalance in sleep can bring a problem. So here, if you try to balance, to balance the body function, compared to the fact, as we said before, that the hypothalamus, which is the main central organ controlling sleep pattern, controlling nervous system, coming into hormones, coming into thermostat, which is controlling body temperature. So all those are the balance aspects of the life, the system, the body. So they can always be very strong indicators. But the question which stands right now is to find what type of medicine is going to do this. And that's the question we're all asking. So we need to find that.
Okay, thank you very much for answering all our questions, Dr. John. We'll be going on a short break right now. Please stick with us. When we come back, we'll have more questions that Dr. John will be able to answer for us.
Love your health, aime ta santé, Linga Santé na yo!